Long before the first Europeans set foot on American soil, the indigenous peoples of the continent had spent centuries honing their combat skills. From the conflicts of the Morning Wars to the broader theater of the French and Indian War, Native American warriors demonstrated remarkable cunning and incredible feats of military prowess. Today we'll explore the guerrilla military tactics employed by various Native American tribes, showcasing their strategic ingenuity and adaptability in warfare. When European colonizers first arrived on the shores of the New World, they likely assumed that their advanced technology and weaponry would easily allow them to dominate the native population. However, they were in for a rude awakening. The indigenous peoples were not only skilled fighters, but also well-versed in the terrain and conditions of their homeland, giving them a unique advantage over their invaders. One of the primary tactics used by Native American warriors was guerrilla warfare, a form of irregular combat characterized by hit-and-run tactics, ambushes, and a deep understanding of the local environment. This approach allowed them to effectively counter the more conventional military strategies of European forces. Rather than engaging in open battle, which often favored the well-armed and disciplined European troops, Native American fighters utilized the element of surprise, leveraging their knowledge of the land to strike swiftly and retreat before suffering significant losses. The forests, mountains, and rivers of North America became integral to Native American strategies. They often employed a method known as hiding in plain sight, using natural cover to their advantage. By utilizing dense foliage, rocky outcrops, and the unpredictable nature of the wilderness, they could launch ambushes on unsuspecting enemy forces. This tactic proved particularly effective during the French and Indian War, where Native American warriors allied with both the French and British, employing their skills to disrupt and demoralize opposing forces. Another critical aspect of Native American warfare was their ability to form strategic alliances. Many tribes recognized the importance of unity against a common enemy. These alliances allowed them to pool resources, share intelligence, and coordinate attacks, further enhancing their effectiveness on the battlefield. For instance, during the conflicts with European settlers, various tribes would often come together for larger campaigns, creating a formidable force that could challenge colonial armies. Additionally, Native American combatants were adept at psychological warfare. They understood the value of instilling fear and uncertainty in their enemies. The loud war cries, fearsome paint, and elaborate rituals before battle served to intimidate European soldiers, who were often unprepared for the ferocity and unpredictability of Native American tactics. Stories of supernatural abilities and invulnerability were often spread among the colonizers, adding to their apprehension and confusion. Despite their effective tactics, Native American tribes faced significant challenges as European colonization progressed. The introduction of new technologies, such as firearms, altered the dynamics of warfare. European forces, often armed with muskets and cannons, could inflict devastating damage, and the sheer numbers of colonizers further complicated the indigenous resistance. In response, many Native American leaders adapted their strategies, incorporating European weaponry while retaining traditional tactics. They became proficient in the use of rifles, adapting their guerrilla methods to include long-range engagements. This blending of techniques allowed them to maintain their cultural identity while enhancing their combat effectiveness. The legacy of Native American military tactics endures as a testament to their resilience and ingenuity in the face of overwhelming odds. The cunning and strategic acumen demonstrated by these warriors not only shaped the conflicts of their time, but also influenced military tactics in future generations. Today, we recognize and honor the complexity of their warfare, understanding that it was not merely a fight for territory, but a profound struggle for survival. identity, and autonomy. As we reflect on this rich history, it's crucial to acknowledge the incredible skills and strategies employed by Native American tribes. Their legacy reminds us that combat is not solely defined by technology and numbers. It is also about adaptability, knowledge of the terrain, and the spirit of those who fight for their homeland. So as we delve deeper into the fascinating world of battlefield tactics, let us remember the indigenous warriors who shaped the early conflicts of America, ensuring their stories continue to resonate through the annals of history. In fact, Native American guerrilla tactics proved so effective that the European invaders were compelled to adopt similar strategies just to keep pace. Throughout the following century and beyond, American Indians fighting to protect their territories continuously developed innovative methods of defense against the encroaching settlers who were gradually spreading across the continent. The ingenuity and adaptability of these tactics were not lost on American forces. Over time, they recognized the effectiveness of indigenous strategies and integrated them into their own combat practices. As the dynamics of warfare evolved, the legacy of Native American tactics influenced military strategies in profound ways. This is particularly evident during periods of conflict where asymmetrical warfare was at play, situations in which a smaller, less equipped force effectively combats a larger, more traditional army. For instance, the American Revolution saw a similar application of guerrilla tactics, where colonial forces often employed ambushes and hit-and-run strategies reminiscent of Native American approaches. Centuries later, during World War II, the importance of these early strategies was echoed by military leaders. General George Marshall, when asked about his plans for combat in the Pacific, famously stated, "Go back to the tactics of the French and Indian days. Study their tactics, and fit in our modern weapons, and you have a solution." This directive highlights the enduring legacy of Native American combat methods, showcasing how their guerrilla warfare principles could be effectively adapted to modern warfare conditions. Essentially, Marshall suggested that the successful tactics of indigenous fighters should be reimagined and combined with contemporary weaponry, creating a formidable approach to military engagement. This idea of borrowing from indigenous strategies isn't just a historical curiosity. It reflects a deep recognition of the value and effectiveness of asymmetrical warfare. The use of ambushes, the element of surprise, and the intimate knowledge of the terrain are principles that transcend time and technology. By adapting these strategies with modern tools, such as machine guns and advanced artillery, military leaders were able to devise tactics that turned the tide in challenging combat scenarios. The notion that size matters is frequently echoed in various contexts, whether in discussions about pickup trucks, cheeseburgers, or even nuclear weaponry. However, in warfare, the size of one's force does not always equate to success. Instead, as history has shown, strategic ingenuity and the ability to adapt can often triumph over sheer numbers. Native American warriors understood this well. Their tactics were not solely reliant on the strength of their numbers, but rather on their cunning and deep understanding of their environment. The effectiveness of Native American guerrilla tactics has continued to resonate through the annals of military history, serving as a reminder that warfare is as much about strategy and adaptability as it is about equipment and manpower. Even today, military academies study these tactics, recognizing that lessons learned from indigenous warfare can inform modern combat strategies. Moreover, the impact of these tactics extends beyond the battlefield. They have influenced not only military strategy, but also cultural narratives surrounding warfare and resilience. The portrayal of Native American warriors in popular media often emphasizes their resourcefulness and bravery, contributing to a legacy that celebrates their fighting spirit and the complexity of their struggles against colonization. In conclusion, the guerrilla tactics employed by Native American tribes during their long history of resistance have left an indelible mark on military strategy, influencing both historical and modern approaches to combat. Their ability to adapt and innovate in the face of overwhelming odds exemplifies the spirit of resilience that defines many indigenous cultures. As we reflect on this rich history, it is essential to recognize the genius behind these tactics and the lasting legacy they have imparted on the art of warfare. Understanding this intricate relationship between past and present strategies enriches our appreciation of military history and underscores the profound impact that indigenous peoples have had on the evolution of combat tactics throughout the ages. But bigger isn't always better. Native American soldiers demonstrated this principle in their combat strategies, often favoring small raiding parties and rapid hit-and-run tactics, whether engaging in open battles or striking from the cover of dense woods. These swift, targeted raids could be devastatingly effective, allowing them to strike fear into their enemies while often sustaining minimal losses themselves. Typically, these attacks would occur just before dawn, catching opponents off guard. Imagine warriors brandishing bows and clubs, rushing at an enemy who was still settling down with their morning coffee, and perhaps attempting to solve a crossword puzzle. The element of surprise played a critical role in the effectiveness of these raids, giving Native American forces a distinct advantage over their often unprepared foes. Moreover, indigenous tribes understood the importance of keeping their warriors motivated and ready for battle. To encourage bravery and prowess during these raids, rewards were often bestowed upon those who successfully took down an enemy combatant. This not only bolstered individual morale, but also fostered a sense of camaraderie and competition among warriors, ensuring that they were always at the peak of their readiness. These lightning-fast tactics and early morning assaults were not random acts of aggression, but rather integral components of a meticulously laid battle strategy designed to safeguard the lives of their warriors. Long before European settlers arrived on the continent, these approaches had been honed and refined through centuries of conflict and survival. Even after encountering foreign soldiers equipped with advanced weaponry and tactics, Native Americans remained committed to preserving the lives of their combatants, adapting their strategies as necessary. This focus on minimizing losses while maximizing the impact of their strikes showcased the ingenuity and resourcefulness of Native American warriors. Rather than engaging in prolonged, drawn-out battles that could drain resources and endanger their forces, they opted for tactics that allowed them to strike quickly, vanish into the landscape, and avoid unnecessary risks. Their methods reflected a deep understanding of their environment and an acute awareness of the psychological aspects of warfare. Ultimately, the guerrilla tactics employed by Native American tribes exemplify the effectiveness of smaller, more agile forces in combat situations. By prioritizing speed, surprise, and strategic thinking over sheer numbers, these warriors established a combat style that would later influence military strategies around the world. The legacy of their innovative approaches continues to resonate today, serving as a testament to the profound impact that indigenous warfare tactics have had on the broader narrative of military history. Later chiefs would refine these older tactics, but ambushes remained a staple of their strategy whenever the opportunity arose. This focus on keeping their warriors alive shaped a unique combat philosophy. There was no shame in retreating to fight another day if the odds were unfavorable. Instead, warriors were encouraged to make a strategic withdrawal rather than risk unnecessary losses. The only true disgrace lay in surrender. This mindset fostered a culture where survival was prioritized, allowing Native American forces to conserve their strength for future engagements. The mantra was clear: evade capture and remain a formidable presence in the ongoing struggle for their territories, while European armies, particularly during the French and Indian War, trained their soldiers to function as cohesive units. Similar to their Roman predecessors, Native American combatants approached warfare quite differently. In the European tradition, soldiers marched and fought in organized formations, relying on discipline and teamwork to achieve their objectives. However, Native American warriors operated with a greater degree of independence. In the Native American tradition, chiefs would articulate the overarching goals of a conflict and provide general guidance on strategies, but once the warriors entered the battlefield, they were largely on their own. This independent approach might seem chaotic at first glance, akin to the haphazardness of a little league soccer game, where kids swarm the ball, but it also afforded each warrior the freedom to make split-second decisions based on their intuition and the ever-changing dynamics of the fight. The fluidity of this combat style allowed Native American warriors to adapt quickly to the battlefield environment. Each fighter's unique skills and understanding of their surroundings played a crucial role in their effectiveness. This autonomy meant that they could exploit opportunities as they arose, whether through flanking maneuvers, ambushes, or rapid retreats when the situation demanded. Moreover, this emphasis on individual initiative fostered creativity and adaptability among warriors, enabling them to use the terrain to their advantage. The thick forests and rugged landscapes of North America became allies in their struggle, offering cover and opportunities for stealthy approaches that European forces often struggled to navigate. Ultimately, while the lack of rigid structure may appear chaotic compared to European tactics, the Native American approach to warfare emphasized agility, quick thinking, and individual responsibility. Each warrior's autonomy allowed for a dynamic and fluid battle strategy that proved remarkably effective against larger, more organized armies. The ability to adapt to the battlefield's changing circumstances and to fight on their terms is a testament to the resilience and ingenuity of Native American combatants in the face of overwhelming odds. The natives' ability to think and act independently while working toward a common goal often confounded the rigid strategies of European forces. This system of individual initiative not only allowed for flexibility in battle, but also produced standout warriors, akin to all-stars in a modern-day sports franchise. Those who managed to distinguish themselves through exceptional bravery or skill earned a revered place in their communities, and often became leaders in their own right. When a Native American raiding party or an assembled tribal battalion took to the field, armed with their handmade weapons, they could be devastatingly effective. Their attacks were often swift and merciless, leaving destruction in their wake. In many cases, the devastation extended beyond combatants, as women and children were not necessarily spared in the chaos. This brutal reality stemmed from the harsh necessities of survival on the frontier, where the line between life and death was often razor-thin. After a defeat, any survivors from the conquered tribe could be incorporated into the victorious tribe, creating a cycle of assimilation and resilience. However, not all tribes operated under this philosophy of integration and cooperation. The Iroquois Confederacy in particular had a reputation for adopting a more ruthless approach to warfare. Known for their strategic cunning, the Iroquois were infamous for systematically torturing any warriors they captured in battle, sometimes going so far as to burn them alive. This brutal treatment served multiple purposes. It instilled fear in their enemies, acted as a deterrent against resistance, and reinforced their own warriors' resolve by illustrating the high stakes of conflict. This dark side of warfare highlights the complex and often harsh realities of life in the pre-colonial Americas. While many Native American tribes fought valiantly to protect their lands and way of life, the brutalities of warfare were never far from the surface. The willingness to employ such severe measures underscored the desperation and intensity of their struggle against encroachment by European settlers. As these stories of conflict unfolded across the continent, they created a tapestry of narratives filled with heroism, tragedy, and survival. The complexities of Native American warfare reveal a society deeply intertwined with the land, bound by cultural values that prioritized both the defense of territory and the preservation of community. Even as they faced overwhelming odds, their resilience and adaptability in the face of conflict remain enduring legacies of the Native American experience. More often than not, raids conducted by Native American tribes were initiated as acts of revenge, aimed at avenging the casualties suffered by their own people. This intricate web of reciprocity in warfare meant that capturing enemies was not just about taking prisoners. It was also a way to restore balance after loss. When a member of a tribe was killed, launching a raid to capture someone from the opposing side became a form of justice, allowing the aggrieved tribe to fill the emotional and social void left by their fallen kin. So, if an enemy tribe took your brother's life, a swift raid could yield a captive, essentially a new brother, to assume that lost role within the community. This process was not merely a matter of swapping captives. It involved complex rituals of integration. The adopted individuals were often treated with care and respect, fully accepted into the tribe. In some cases, captives even married to the tribe, reinforcing the bonds between tribes and creating new familial ties. This practice of adoption allowed tribes to expand their numbers and strengthen their social structures, fostering a sense of unity amid conflict. Interestingly, European settlers were not immune to this treatment. Numerous settlers, upon being captured, found themselves fully assimilated into the tribes that had initially taken them prisoner. These individuals often embraced their new identities, learning the customs and languages of their captors. One of the most notable examples is the portrayal of such narratives in films like The Searchers, featuring John Wayne, where characters embark on a quest to rescue loved ones from Native American tribes. These stories reflect the complexities of relationships formed through conflict and highlight the blurred lines of loyalty and identity in a time of war. Native American combat also employed several psychological strategies designed to destabilize their enemies and strip them of their will to fight. The tactics were rooted in an understanding of human psychology and leveraged the fears and anxieties of European settlers. For instance, the suddenness and ferocity of their raids often left settlers in a state of shock and confusion. The element of surprise was crucial. Raiders would strike without warning, using the cover of darkness or the early morning mist to their advantage. The psychological impact of such attacks was significant, as they instilled fear in the hearts of settlers and created an atmosphere of paranoia. Moreover, Native American warriors often used intimidation tactics during battle. This included loud war cries, elaborate war paint, and other visual displays designed to unnerve their enemies. Such psychological warfare aimed not just to defeat the enemy physically, but to break their spirit, making them less likely to resist or retaliate effectively. Additionally, Native tribes understood the importance of community morale. By fostering a sense of unity and purpose among their warriors, they built resilience against the psychological toll of combat. Rituals and ceremonies before battles served to strengthen bonds and instill a collective sense of courage. Warriors would often gather to share stories of bravery, reinforcing their identities as defenders of their land and people. In this way, the Native American approach to warfare transcended mere tactics. It was a deeply rooted cultural practice, intertwined with their social structures, values, and beliefs. The ability to adapt, innovate, and employ psychological strategies was key to their resistance against European encroachment, allowing them to assert their agency in a rapidly changing world. This blend of revenge, assimilation, and psychological warfare illustrates the complex and multifaceted nature of Native American combat, which was as much about survival as it was about identity and community. In other words, Native American warriors employed some intense tactics to instill fear in their opponents, aiming to force them into submission. One of the most notorious methods used to elicit a terrified response was scalping. While often seen as a gruesome trophy of combat, scalps had a deeper significance within Native American cultures. They were not only prizes of war, but also served as potent symbols of victory and prowess in battle. Scalps would be displayed in villages, hung as grim trophies, given to spouses as tokens of honor, and sometimes even traded as a form of currency. This practice, while shocking to European settlers, was integrated into the social fabric of many tribes, with scalps representing status and bravery in the face of conflict. The act of scalping was more than a mere method of intimidation. It held profound cultural meanings. For many tribes, it was a way to symbolize the triumph over an enemy and to assert their own survival in a hostile environment. This practice also acted as a psychological weapon, heightening the fear among settlers and reinforcing the sense of danger that came with the threat of Native American retaliation. The mere knowledge that scalping could be a consequence of conflict served to discourage some from confronting Native American tribes directly, as the fear of such gruesome reprisals loomed large in the minds of many settlers. During the colonial era, European armies typically favored battles in open landscapes, as this arrangement allowed commanders to easily direct their troops and maintain formation. These tactics were often rigid and predictable, with both sides lining up and taking turns to exchange gunfire. This method, resembling a formalized dance of death, was a hallmark of European warfare at the time. However, Native American chiefs, accustomed to the unpredictability of the wilderness, were considerably less accommodating than the Europeans had anticipated. Instead of following the conventional line-up method of warfare, indigenous fighters utilized the terrain to their advantage. They understood the land deeply, knowing where to hide, where to ambush, and how to use the natural environment to create opportunities for surprise attacks. Hills, trees, and rivers became tools of war, allowing Native American warriors to engage their enemies on their own terms. This strategic approach not only maximized the effectiveness of their smaller forces, but also created an inherent unpredictability that European commanders struggled to counter. Ambush tactics became a signature element of Native American warfare. Rather than engaging in open confrontation, they preferred to strike quickly and decisively from hidden positions. They would often wait in silence, blending into the environment until the perfect moment to unleash a barrage of arrows or gunfire. This guerrilla warfare strategy left their enemies bewildered and demoralized, often leading to a quick withdrawal or retreat. Furthermore, the emphasis on mobility allowed Native American warriors to regroup, resupply, and counterattack with surprising speed. They would often engage in hit-and-run tactics, making their presence known with sudden strikes before disappearing back into the foliage. This constant state of vigilance kept European forces on edge, unable to predict when or where the next attack would come. As a result, many European military leaders began to recognize the effectiveness of these unconventional tactics. The British and colonial forces, struggling to adapt to this new kind of warfare, found themselves at a disadvantage against the nimble and resourceful Native American warriors. The lessons learned from these encounters would ultimately inform future military strategies, blending indigenous tactics with European techniques in an effort to gain the upper hand. In conclusion, the integration of scalping and guerrilla tactics into Native American warfare not only served immediate purposes of intimidation and revenge, but also demonstrated a profound understanding of the psychological and strategic dimensions of conflict. The legacy of these tactics shaped the course of confrontations between Native Americans and European settlers, highlighting the importance of adaptability and resourcefulness in the face of overwhelming odds. The ability to harness the environment and leverage fear created a lasting impact on the dynamics of warfare, ultimately influencing military strategies for generations to come. One notable example of Native American tactics that astounded European commanders occurred during the conflict between Chief Crazy Horse and General George Crook. In a masterclass of misdirection, Crazy Horse lured Crook and his troops into a valley that seemed harmless enough at first. As Crook's men took a break, they were unexpectedly ambushed by a ferocious force of 1,500 Sioux warriors. The surprise attack showcased not only the cunning of Crazy Horse, but also the effectiveness of the guerrilla warfare strategies employed by Native American tribes. It must have been bewildering for Crook, who perhaps expected a more conventional engagement, to find his soldiers outmaneuvered and outnumbered without warning. Native American horsemanship was not merely a means of transportation, it was a vital element of their warfare strategy. Most tribes had honed their skills on horseback to a level that rivaled, if not surpassed, their European counterparts. However, their cavalry tactics differed significantly from the rigid formations commonly employed by European forces. Instead of marching in tight lines, Native American horsemen favored a more fluid and dynamic approach, resembling a chaotic yet purposeful swarm. This loose formation served a critical purpose. It minimized the effectiveness of enemy volleys, which often decimated entire ranks in traditional battle setups. The rationale behind this approach was straightforward. By avoiding tightly packed formations, Native American warriors made it far more difficult for defenders to target them effectively with gunfire or arrows. The risk of a single volley taking out numerous riders was drastically reduced, allowing the attacking force to maintain its momentum and reduce casualties. In battle, this meant that indigenous warriors could sustain their charges with less fear of significant losses. Once the horsemen made contact with their intended targets, their group dynamics shifted. In this seemingly chaotic cluster, the warriors were able to focus their efforts on a specific area, overwhelming their opponents with a combination of speed, agility, and sheer numbers. This tactic created an opportunity for devastating blows against a defensive line, often resulting in the immediate incapacitation of enemy fighters. The chaotic appearance of their formations was, in fact, a calculated strategy designed to exploit weaknesses in the opposing force's defensive positions. Moreover, the use of horses in this way allowed Native American warriors to leverage their knowledge of the terrain effectively. They could navigate diverse landscapes with ease, from open plains to rocky outcrops, enhancing their ability to launch surprise attacks and quickly retreat when necessary. This mobility not only kept the enemy on edge, but also allowed them to execute hit-and-run tactics that further confused and demoralized their opponents. In addition to their horsemanship, Native American tactics relied heavily on psychological warfare. The sight of a large number of horsemen advancing in what appeared to be a disorganized mass was enough to unnerve even the most disciplined troops. The combination of swift movement, the thundering of hooves, and the war cries of the riders created an atmosphere of chaos that could easily sow panic among European forces who were unaccustomed to such tactics. Furthermore, indigenous warriors were adept at integrating their knowledge of the environment into their military strategies. They understood how to use the land to their advantage, utilizing natural features for cover and ambush points. This familiarity with the landscape gave them an edge, allowing them to plan attacks that capitalized on the element of surprise and made it difficult for enemy commanders to anticipate their movements. The effectiveness of these tactics often led to significant victories for Native American tribes, as they repeatedly demonstrated their ability to outsmart and outmaneuver European forces. By eschewing traditional battlefield formations and embracing a more flexible and unpredictable style of combat, they challenged the very foundations of European military doctrine. In summary, the engagement led by Chief Crazy Horse against General Crook serves as a prime example of how Native American tactics transformed the nature of warfare during this period. By leveraging their superior horsemanship and employing strategies that prioritized mobility and psychological impact, indigenous warriors consistently demonstrated their ability to combat larger and better-equipped forces. These tactics not only showcased the resourcefulness and ingenuity of Native American tribes, but also had lasting implications for military strategy in North America, influencing the approaches taken by subsequent generations of soldiers. While individualism characterized Native American combat, warriors were also adept at following their chief's lead when necessary. This adaptability was crucial in battle, especially in the heat of conflict when orders had to be communicated swiftly and effectively. But how did these leaders relay commands to their warriors without the modern convenience of field radios or other communication technology? A prime example comes from the Battle of Little Bighorn, where the legendary Chief Crazy Horse employed mirrors to communicate tactical changes to his men. This clever use of reflective surfaces allowed him to send signals across the battlefield, coordinating movements and responses without alerting the enemy to his plans. In addition to mirrors, several other Native American chiefs utilized distinct sound signals to relay orders. One notable tool was the eagle horn, a bellowing whistle crafted from the leg bone of an eagle, which held significant cultural importance and was imbued with spiritual meaning. These horns could carry a sound over considerable distances, allowing chiefs to issue commands effectively in the chaos of battle. The use of such unique instruments added a layer of psychological warfare, as the eerie sounds could evoke fear and confusion among their adversaries. Moreover, the famous combat whoops of Native American warriors also served as a means of communication on the battlefield. These whoops, often described as battle cries, were not just expressions of ferocity. They were strategic calls that conveyed specific messages or signals to fellow warriors. When warriors let out these distinctive sounds, it created a sense of unity among the fighters, reinforcing their camaraderie, even in the midst of conflict. The effectiveness of this system became evident during key confrontations with technologically superior enemies, as demonstrated by the fate of General George Armstrong Custer at the Battle of Little Bighorn. Custer's defeat is a vivid illustration of how Native American communication methods confounded and outmaneuvered European forces. While Custer's troops relied on traditional military strategies and communication methods, they were ill-prepared for the guerrilla tactics employed by the Sioux and Cheyenne warriors. The ability of these tribes to coordinate effectively, using mirrors, eagle horns, and battle cries contributed significantly to their success on that fateful day. In contrast, Custer's forces found themselves overwhelmed and disoriented, falling victim to the very strategies that Native American warriors had honed over centuries. In addition to these innovative methods of communication, Native American tribes also took control of another crucial element of European battlefield tactics, the bugler. Buglers were essential for relaying commands and coordinating troop movements in European armies. Recognizing the potential to disrupt enemy operations, Sioux and Cheyenne warriors often captured buglers during engagements. By using these captured musicians, they could confuse British and American troops, mimicking their signals or issuing false commands. This tactic not only created chaos among the enemy ranks, but also demonstrated the strategic foresight of Native American leaders, who understood the importance of psychological warfare in addition to physical confrontation. The ability to adapt and innovate in battle was a hallmark of Native American warfare. The combination of individual warrior skills with effective communication strategies allowed these tribes to face overwhelming odds and emerge victorious in numerous encounters. Their methods showcased an understanding of the battlefield that transcended mere tactics. It was a holistic approach that incorporated psychology, culture, and the environment into their combat strategies. As the conflicts continued, the lessons learned from these battles would resonate through history, shaping the tactics of future generations. The resilience and ingenuity displayed by Native American warriors not only laid the groundwork for their military success, but also influenced military strategies in the broader context of American history. In summary, the communication methods used by Native American warriors highlight their ability to adapt and thrive in combat situations. Utilizing mirrors, eagle horns, and battle cries, these tribes established a system that allowed for rapid and effective coordination among their ranks. The successful integration of these tactics played a pivotal role in the outcomes of critical battles, serving as a testament to the resourcefulness and strategic acumen of Native American leaders. In the face of technologically superior forces, these warriors proved that effective communication and tactical innovation could lead to triumph against the odds. During the mid-19th century, the United States government was not particularly focused on settling the American West. With the nation embroiled in a bloody civil war, the attention and resources that could have been allocated to Western expansion were severely diminished. As a result, the War Department often stationed troops on the western frontier who were more inclined to picnic and hunt than to undergo rigorous training for combat. In stark contrast, Native Americans lived their lives immersed in the realities of mounted combat. Contrary to the portrayal of indigenous warriors in old cowboy films, which often depicted them as primarily relying on bows and arrows, these warriors adapted swiftly to modern warfare. They were not just skilled horsemen, but also proficient in using firearms, often outclassing the soldiers they faced. As one soldier from Custer's 7th Cavalry aptly noted, sending raw recruits and untrained horses to fight mounted Indians is simply sending soldiers to be slaughtered without the power of defending themselves. His first-hand experience in battle provided him with a clear understanding of the disparities in preparation and skill between the two sides. This soldier's observation underscores the harsh reality of the battlefield, where the indigenous warriors, accustomed to the rigors of combat, were frequently better equipped and trained than their American counterparts. The disparity in training and preparedness played a crucial role in the conflicts that unfolded in the West. Native American warriors brought years of experience and a deep understanding of mounted combat to the fight, allowing them to navigate the complexities of warfare with a level of proficiency that often left their opponents at a significant disadvantage. The American soldiers, many of whom were unseasoned recruits, faced an uphill battle against these seasoned adversaries who had honed their skills through countless engagements. This dynamic not only shaped the outcomes of specific battles, but also illustrated the broader implications of military strategy and preparedness during a time when the United States was still grappling with its identity and priorities. The contrast between the government's lack of focus on the West and the relentless dedication of Native Americans to their way of life and combat readiness would set the stage for many of the significant conflicts that defined this tumultuous period in American history. In the years following the French and Indian War, even those Native American tribes that had aligned themselves with the British found themselves at the mercy of European encroachment. Treaties that had been signed with promises of protection and mutual respect were repeatedly overturned and dishonored. The colonizers often disregarded Native American customs and traditions, such as the practice of adopting survivors into their tribes, which had deep cultural significance. This pattern of betrayal and disrespect galvanized many tribes, prompting them to unite under the leadership of Pontiac, a courageous chief whose name would later be co-opted by General Motors for a line of automobiles. While Pontiac may not have envisioned such a tribute, he nonetheless remains associated with the iconic Firebird, a pretty sweet ride in its own right. Pontiac, having keenly observed the British and French armies in action, took it upon himself to educate his warriors in disciplined, formation-based combat. Drawing from his insights into European military strategies, he incorporated these lessons into a framework that was uniquely suited to the Native American fighting style. Pontiac instructed his men to form various tactical patterns, including half-moons, squares, circles, lines, and columns. This adaptability allowed his forces to shift formations quickly in response to the unpredictable dynamics of battle, making them particularly effective even on rough terrain. By embracing these new formations, Pontiac enhanced the combat effectiveness of his warriors while preserving the guerrilla tactics that had long been a hallmark of Native American warfare. The blend of disciplined formations with the fluidity of traditional ambush tactics created a formidable strategy that confounded European forces, who were often unprepared for such an innovative approach. Pontiac's leadership and tactical innovations culminated in what would later be known as Pontiac's Rebellion, a widespread uprising against British rule in 1763. His ability to unite various tribes against a common enemy demonstrated the effectiveness of his strategies and highlighted the desperation of Native Americans in their struggle to protect their lands and way of life. The rebellion, while ultimately unsuccessful in achieving its immediate goals, served as a powerful statement against colonialism and left an indelible mark on the historical narrative of Native American resistance. In this tumultuous period, Pontiac emerged not only as a military leader, but as a symbol of indigenous resilience and determination. His legacy continues to resonate today, reminding us of the profound and often painful history of Native American struggles against colonization and the fight for sovereignty and recognition. In 1755, General Edward Braddock assembled a force of 1,400 British soldiers with the intent of capturing the French outpost at Fort Duquesne. He received a warning from Benjamin Franklin about the formidable Native American warriors in the region. However, Braddock dismissed Franklin's concerns with an air of arrogance, proclaiming, "These savages may be a formidable enemy to your raw American militia, but upon the King's regular and disciplined troops, sir, it is impossible they would make any impression." The outcome of this encounter was catastrophic for the British. While the French and their allies suffered only 39 casualties, the British forces faced an astounding loss of 977 men, including General Braddock himself. This battle would serve as a stark reminder of the effectiveness of Native American combat strategies and the dire consequences of underestimating the enemy. A young lieutenant colonel named George Washington quickly realized the severity of their situation and managed to lead his remaining men in a hasty retreat. This tactical withdrawal earned him the rather ironic title of the Hero of the Monongahela, though it's hard to discern whether that title was genuinely complimentary or steeped in sarcasm. Regardless of the dubious honor, Washington and his commanding officer, General John Forbes, gleaned a critical lesson from their defeat. As General Forbes famously noted, "We must comply and learn the art of war from enemy Indians." This lesson would prove invaluable, as Washington later adopted many of these indigenous tactics during the American Revolution, where he achieved significantly greater success. What do you think? Which aspect of Native American battle tactics did you find most intriguing? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and while you're at it, be sure to check out some of these other fascinating videos from our Weird History channel.